All right, so now we have covered everything in there for an equation. Let's take a look at a graph. So we're going to repeat that process, but this time it's going to be for a graph. So fill in A, which comes right here, C, which comes right here, and circle growth or decay for B. I'm actually going to go a step further and say you actually need to find the growth or decay factor. So let's go ahead and get started. The way you're going to start with this every single time is you're going to start with C, because C is what it is. And what is C? C is just the isotope. So again, where the graph approaches but never touches. Where is it approaching but never touches? 0. Okay, so this is going to be plus 0. And of course, we do not even need to have that number in there. But the reason I say we're going to start with C is because when you're looking for the y-intercept is A plus C. So there's a little bit of a math calculation for that. So again, you're going to write this down, but you're going to write it for your question and not mine. So the y-intercept is equal to A plus C. Right? I know that the y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis right now in this problem, is 2, and yours may be different. And then it's going to take A plus whatever C is. And I just found out what C is, which in my case is 0. So again, you're using your example. So what plus 0 is going to give me 2? 2 plus 0 is going to give me 2. So A must be 2. So again, just be careful, because A is not necessarily the y-intercept, because you have to do A plus C. All right, again, I want to see notes here for your question. The next thing we're going to do is find out if it's growth or decay. So again, write down, how do I find out if it's growth or decay? From left to right, follow the graph. Okay, so I'm actually going to just draw over this. What is happening from the left to right? What can you say is happening to the graph? It's doing what? Decreasing, right? So because it is decreasing, then it is decay. And I want you to go a step further and find the decay factor. How do I find the decay factor in exponential functions? I do y2 divided by y1. So I just need to find 2 consecutive y values. What that means is I can't skip. All right, so let me find the y-intercept, because that's quick. All right, so 2. Another consecutive value is right here. But keep in mind, I could also use this one. It doesn't matter. It just has to be next to each other. So 2 corners as quick as you can next to each other. So all of these are values that I could use. I could not use this one and this one, because they're not consecutive. Consecutive means it has to be the next corner. All right, so with this, it's very, very important that you use consecutive. All right, so I'll use this one, which is 4, and then I'll use this one, which is 2. So it's the second one, so you have to go from left to right. So left to right would mean this is my first one, this is my second one. So my second one is 2, and my first one would be 4. So again, everything from left to right. Go ahead and put that in a calculator. You're going to find out that it's 1/2, which is 0.5. In this case, I can just leave it as a percent, which makes sense, because if it's decay, it has to be between 0 and 1. I'm going to take a look at another one. All right, so again, another example, this time going from left to right. What do you see it doing? It's growing, so I might as well just highlight that it's growing. Now, with this one, there's a little bit of a trick. You cannot necessarily find the growth factor, because the graph has been shifted, and we'll talk about that after we review transformations. We're actually going to come back and find it, but for right now, we're not going to find the factor if the isotope is not equal to 0. So we're going to go ahead and write that down, actually, just so that we're clear. So have to shift graph back to calculate. So you're going to write this down on the second problem as well. To calculate B if your isotope is not 0. All right, so let's find the isotope in this case, because I keep saying it's not 0, but we haven't found it. So what's the isotope once again? Y equals C. The isotope is the line that it approaches and never touches. So this one from left to right, right? This one keeps going and never approaches, or it just keeps increasing. But if you do it the other way around, you'll see that this one approaches but never touches what number? 4. So this is the isotope is y equals 4. Remember, it must be y equals 4. But in this case, I'm writing it where C is, so it's positive 4. So again, because it's not 0, I cannot find the growth. But after we do transformations, we're going to come back and shift the graph back so we can find our growth factor. To find our A, and again, for yours it's a little bit different, but the math still must be done and you have to write it down. So you're going to write y-intercept is equal to A plus C. Then you're going to say the y-intercept for your question. So for me, it's going to be 7. You're going to write yours. I don't know what A is because that's what I'm looking for, but my C value is what? 4, because this is the isotope, the line that it approaches but never touches. So mine is positive 4, and keep in mind it could be negative, it's fine. So what number plus 4 is going to give me 7? That's going to be 3 plus 4 gives me 7. So my A is equal to 3. Now again, I said there's no calculator, but I can check my answers by typing it in the calculator. I could type in y equals 2 parentheses 1/2 to the x power, and if I zoom in, I'll find out that it matches this graph exactly. All right, last thing as a quick review. So we now know what ABC is. Now we're going to look at B in a little bit more detail. So B is a growth factor or the decay factor. However, we do also deal with steepness, because sometimes you're going to be given something that they're both growing or they're both decaying, but you need to be able to identify what equation it could possibly go with. And so the way you're going to do that is, again, for growth, okay, there are 2 different ways. For growth, the bigger the number, the faster it's growing. And how you find that is it's the closest to the y-axis. So you can think of how Miss Ainley is really, really scared of roller coasters, and which one would she hate to be on over the other. Or you can think, or as well as decay. And for decay, it's different. It's actually the opposite. The smaller the fraction, the faster it grows. So you just need to remember those 2 things. So let's come back to our questions. We have 4 different graphs, and we have A, B, C, D as our answer choices. And again, mine are different than yours, so just understand the process and do your question. So I have a growth one from left to right, and here's another growth one from left to right. So first, let me identify which one of my answer choices are growth. Well, I know 3 is bigger than 1 for sure, so that is growth. 5 divided by 6. So let's talk about fractions. The numerator, the top number, is smaller than the denominator, which means 6 cannot go into 5 one full time. So this must be decayed. Again, the numerator is smaller than the denominator. 3 cannot go into 1 one full time. So this is also decay. The numerator is bigger than the denominator. 2 does go into 1 at least once. So this 2 goes into 1 one time, 1 point something, but in order for it to be 2, it'll have to be 4 here, right? So it's 1 point something. And this is why I said there's no calculator. I don't need a calculator to know. I also know that this one is my growth, and this growth is 1 point something. I don't care what it is, it's 1 point something. So I go to my notes. It says for growth, the bigger the number, the faster it grows, the closest to the y-axis. Well, between 1 point something and 3, which is the bigger number? D, right? So I just now need to come to my graph and find which one is steeper. Again, if this was a roller coaster, would Miss Ainley be on this one? If she had to choose one, or this one? Definitely would not be on this one, because it's way steeper than this one, which is more gradual. If you cannot see that, then what I want you to see is which one is closest to the y-axis. So find your highest number, which is 7. Okay, but this one doesn't have a 7, so let me go with 6. 6. Look at the distance between here and here. So the distance between here and here. And then go to the same 6 number here and look at the distance between here and here. Again, the closest to the y-axis is the faster that it's growing. So this one is at 1, whereas this one is at like 2 point whatever. So this one is closest to the y-axis, so that's the fastest. So this answer is going to be D, which makes this other answer have to be A. Again, you're doing this for your question and not for mine. All right, so the next 2 I'm going to look at is decay. And again, the smaller one on top, or the numerator is smaller than the denominator, means it's decay. And this number is smaller than this, which means it's decay. Now let's talk about fractions real quick. You see how close 5 is to 6? If it was 1 more, it'd be 1, right? So this is really close to 1, whereas this is not very close to 3, so this is closer to 0. So this is like 0. Well, actually, you know what this one is, because we do this one a lot. That one's 0.3, repeating. But this one is very close to, I don't know what actually 5 over 6 is, but I'm just going to call it, like, it's closer to 1, so I'm going to call it maybe 0.8, but I don't know, it doesn't really matter. I just know it's way more than 0.3. So it doesn't matter that this is not exactly 0.8, but for purposes of deciding which is steep, I do need to know what roughly it is. So again, for decay, the factor, the smaller the fraction, the faster it grows. And that's why I make it into decimals a little bit easier to see which one of these is closer to 0. Because again, decay is 0 and 1, right? So the small one is closer to 0. So 0.3 is closest to 0. So B is the steepest. Now, when you come to the graphs, again, if Miss Ainley had to choose what slide to be on, would she go to this one if she's scared to death? Or would she go to this one? Well, you already know Miss Ainley going to the baby slide, which is going to be that one right there, right? However, if you cannot tell that, you're going to again pick a number. So 6, but this one doesn't have a 6. So let me pick 5. So I'm going to pick 5 and see what's that distance. And here is 5. What's that distance? And honestly, if you keep imagining this going somewhere over here, right? All right, then the one that's closest to the y-intercept. So which one's closer to the y-intercept? This one is way closer because it's by -1. This one is like all the way over here, which is probably like -4 or something like that. So the steeper the graph, the smaller the fraction. So this one's going to be B, and this one will be the one left over, which is A. Okay, and that's a quick summary on what A, B, X plus C is, including steepness. Let's practice.